This is a video I've needed to make for a long time. I'm a critic. Now, I don't get paid by YouTube or anything, um, or anywhere I post reviews, which, by the way, is only YouTube. I only post reviews on YouTube. Um, you know, but I review movies often. I review movies, TV shows as often as I can because I like talking about movies. You know what I mean? It's what I like doing. And I would love to get paid to do it one day or even make films myself and just talk about the things I appreciate. In daily life, I talk about movies. So this is just what I do, and this is just an outlet for me to continue talking about something I don't, that or that I really like that a lot of people may not like hearing about constantly. Anyways, there's always been this thing that people say there's a disconnect between audiences and critics. Sorry, it's the other way around. There's a disconnect between critics and audiences. I don't think there is. I think it's the other way around. It's audiences versus critics. Because here's what I'll tell you. Audiences are very stupid. I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean that in they're actually smart. They know what they want. When they go to a film, they want to be entertained. And that's it. That's all they really care about. They don't like thinking about films. They don't really notice things like cinematography or how pretty a movie looks, unless it's really noticeable. Like if you showed somebody Avatar, right, they'd probably notice how pretty that film looks. They don't care about score. They don't care about pacing, acting, unless it's like, you go see the Joker and it's like Joaquin Phoenix is so good. But the rest of it, Joker, they're not gonna tell the acting, the pacing, cinematography, how similar it is to King of Comedy, Taxi Driver. Most of the people who see that movie have probably never heard or seen those movies. They probably didn't even really know that Joker was supposed to be a standalone movie. They probably thought it was going to be connected to a Batman movie. They're not very smart people. They just go to movies to be entertained. They don't really know anything about it. Now, this is not a negative standpoint to have. If you want to go to a movie and be entertained, that is fine. Here's the problem with people, is that they feel like if a critic talks about a movie that they like in a negative sense, that they are trying to attack their other people's enjoyment of the film. Which, yes, let's get this out of the way. There are legitimate critics who do this, who try to attack other people who like films that they don't. But that's not what a critic is. Let me show you some of the divides that you will have with a critic if you're just a casual moviegoer. A critic is more knowledgeable. Not always, like there's some uneducated critics who are kind of dumb and they just say things. But a critic is more knowledgeable for the most part. They're more aware of how films are made, so they may praise something like editing, cinematography, the score, the pacing. Words you may have never even heard of or thought about when you're watching a film. And that's okay, because you don't care about that stuff. And if you don't care about that stuff, then don't watch a review. But I'm just saying, critics know a lot more about the craft of filmmaking. So you may watch Suicide Squad and you may watch it and go, that was fun and entertaining, but a critic might go, yeah, the editing was garbage. The color grading, the way the movie looked was terrible, blah, 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 blah. All the acting was terrible. But you don't care because you had fun. Was the critic really trying to take away your viewing of that movie? No. He was just explaining why it's not a well made film. A lot of people want to say, hey, critics aren't objective. First of all, there is an objective quality to criticism. Um, I believe in that pretty strongly myself because you can take a bad movie with bad editing and then show them a good movie with good editing and show them what it looks like. Like, that is a thing. There is a technical way to make a good film. And the only reason people don't want to believe there's an objective factor is because they feel like if a film is bad, if something's bad, they probably shouldn't like it, right? You know what I mean? So they don't want to acknowledge, hey, maybe this thing I like is bad. But it's okay. Like, I feel like if you can look past the flaws in a movie and still enjoy it, then that means that the film does hold some value. And if you can't do that and you want to ignore its flaws, then number one, don't watch a review. Number two, if you want to ignore a movie's flaws, then do that. I don't really care. Like, nobody's trying to make you hate a film. But here's another thing, besides just vocabulary and them being more knowledgeable about films. Them seeing a lot more movies. Okay? It's estimated that, now we're talking about before this whole pandemic stuff started. At the time of recording this, 2020, so for context. Because this video is going to stay up for probably years. It's estimated most people go to the theater about 5 times a year now. And before that was about 10, maybe 15. Okay, that's not a lot, right? So, people are probably going to go see the Disney movies. They're probably going to go see the big blockbusters, right? They're going to see what's big and popular and what's interesting to them. Okay? Then you have the critics, okay? They are paid. Or, in my case, they just like watching lots and lots of movies. So I say up to 200 movies per month. Whether that be new movies, old movies, and all that. Okay? So you can watch, let's say, what's a good example? Someone may watch a movie like A Quiet Place, right? A Quiet Place is a movie that people praise for being original, okay? Well, I've seen a lot of movies like that. I've seen movies that do similar things to that, And so when I watch movies, I go, oh, well, that's generic. I don't see why everybody sees this as original, right? And so, therefore, because I have seen more movies, I am more knowledgeable about movies. Again, I am smarter about movies. Like, it's not me trying to be an egomaniac and be like, haha, I know more than you. No, it's just like, I just factually know more about this thing because I have more experience. It's the same thing as if you were a soccer player, and let's say I only played soccer once, and then I tried to act like I know more than you about soccer, when you clearly have played for years, you know what I mean? You have more experience playing soccer, so you know how the game works better than I do, and you're a better player. So you're going to have the guy who's only played for 1 year, and then you're going to have the guy who's played for 8 years. The guy who played for 1 year is probably not the one you want to go to for advice. You know what I mean? On how good, on how well you play the sport. You know what I mean? So it's kind of interesting. We see a lot of people say there's a disconnect between critics and audiences. It's really just a disconnect with the audience. The audience thinks that critics are there to destroy their entertainment value of a film, which no one does. No critic, no good critic, I should say, does that. No one sits there and goes, look, sorry, because this film was shot poorly and acted poorly, I'm sorry, Jimmy. You're not allowed to enjoy that film anymore. Okay, no critic does that, right? Um, there's a quote from Ratatouille about the Anton Ego character in the movie. He says that, you know, negative reviews are fun to write and create and read, which they are. They are definitely. I literally review bad movies for fun. There are tons of people who like watching bad movies for fun, and but he also says we forget that these things have more value than we attach to them, and that's true because there is a whole audience of people who, when we talk badly about who likes a movie like this, we might get up in our high horse in our videos and be like, who likes a movie like this? Who likes this movie? You know what I mean? But reality is, there's someone out there who does love the movie, and I just bash them for liking the movie. You know what I mean? And you know, I've had people comment on my videos being like, "Yeah, I disagree with you. I like the movie," and for some reason they thought I was gonna hate on them. In the comments, I'm like, I'm not gonna hate on you because you like a movie I don't like. I may not get it, but I don't really care. Like, at the end of the day, it's not for me. You know, there are objective factors. Like, I would consider Lion King 2019 an objectively bad movie. Someone could argue it's not, and there's things that someone else could appreciate. But here's the thing: if you don't like critics, um, if you don't agree with most critics, don't listen to them. And also understand this: you don't have to agree with everything a critic you like says. I've watched reviews from critics that I really like and respect, and I've been like, yeah, I don't know, I still want to see the movie, and I go and see the movie, and guess what? I disagree with them. I didn't unsubscribe to their channel. I didn't do any of that. I didn't boycott their posts, whatever, because I watch a podcast called Sardonicast, and everyone on that podcast, they agree majority of the time, but they also don't agree, and they're constantly arguing, and they enjoy the same movies differently. They rate the same movies differently, and that's just how it is. You know what I mean? And so everybody can interpret different art a different way, and I think that's fascinating, and it's a beautiful thing, and it should be celebrated. And so when I'm out there reviewing movies, I don't want to take away someone's enjoyment. If you comment on my videos saying you disagree with me and you really like the film, that's great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you had fun. But if, hey, I like the movie, blah blah blah. My least favorite comments on my videos when people tell me they disagree with me and they don't tell me why, because I like hearing why. I was having a debate with somebody about Joker. I watched Joker recently. I asked someone what their favorite movie was, and she said, "Oh, it was the Joker." And I was like, I don't know, Joker's so overrated. King of comedy, taxi driver, blah blah blah. Common complaints you've heard before. It's too similar to them. And she was like, I disagree. I still think it's an original movie. And I'm like, I mean, no, it's not. I was going, I mean, look at that, the themes of like rich versus the poor, um, stuff like that. I was going over the themes and I'm like, I've seen this in this movie and that movie. She goes, yeah, but it's different from anything DC's doing. I'm like, true, but but it, I kind of take the DC equation out of it because it doesn't feel like a DC movie. It's a drama, not really a superhero movie. And she was like, yeah, I still disagree. It's presenting this mental illness and that is underrepresented in media and blah blah blah. Not really what talked about. And I was like, you know what? That's something I did not think about. She made by listening to this person and having an actual debate. She made me realize something about a film that I rated lower. And while it didn't change majority of my feelings on the movie, but it did make me go, yeah, you know what, you are right. And that is the thing there. If we don't listen to the people who we disagree with and who we um, sometimes feel like we don't get anything out of listening to them, it really is interesting what can happen, because you should always um, be willing to listen to. I feel like too many people are just too willing to shut out critics just because they don't agree with them. And look, if you really can't stand listening to a critic and what they have to say, fine, I understand. But if it's just because, hey, they don't just, it's hey, they really don't align with my opinion in this one video because I really like the Joker or whatever. Why just that one video turns you away? Don't let one video turn you away. Because if you still enjoy their other content, and you know what I mean, there shouldn't be a reason that because they didn't like one movie you didn't like, that you have to turn away and go, boop, I'm done. And, I've seen people out there saying before, the reason why critics are just paid. Yes, critics do get paid by Disney to say films are better than they are. But wouldn't you take that money too? I think they're shills and it's annoying, but you would take that money too. You know what I mean? Um, but just because a critic hates a movie doesn't mean they do it on purpose. Most critics have a different experience. What they look for in a movie is different. Every critic rates a movie differently. Again, I listen to a podcast where majority of the time the people agree on the podcast. Start on it, guys. Checking them out on YouTube. They disagree a lot, but they also agree a lot, and they talk about the same movie and what they don't and do like about it, and usually they align really well, and yet they rate the movies so differently. Most of them rate movies like on number scales, and how they rate them is so different, and it's really interesting. And that's what makes them such good critics, is that they both can understand, hey, we all don't agree, but it's not like what you were saying was wrong, and they can acknowledge each other's perspective and grow to understand more. And it's not like any one of their ways reviewing is wrong. They all just have a different way of doing it. And having that unique style and voice is very important. And I hope that this made you think about things more. That critics aren't here to take away your experience, the good ones, anyways. They're here to actually make you think more, and maybe make you see something in a movie that you didn't see before, in the same way you can make a critic see something in a film that they did not see before. a new perspective, a new understanding about something, you know. And I think it's really interesting.